Welcome everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another session. Can you guys please confirm that you can hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartford.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I trust you guys had a pleasant week. Mine was actually very eventful, as always. If your week is not eventful, then I probably would need to switch careers. Yeah. Uh, all right. We started out with our cloud computing journey last weekend, and um, by now, I want to believe we are already somewhat acquainted to some cloud terminologies because we touched on a few of those terminologies to kind of prepare us for um, the coming sessions. Yeah, some of the things that we would be using, and then some of these terminologies, it's good that you get acquainted with them because you find yourself um, in settings in conversations where um, you're this terminology will be thrown around, so you are able to also join in the conversation. Aside the technical parts, I think the theoretical part also is quite important. Yeah, because it's what you actually understand. You are able to put to practice. Yeah. So moving on, we would again be continuing with where we stopped last week, albeit again, we'll be setting the stage for all that we'll still be doing because the foundation of anything is actually very, very important. Yeah. As part of this cloud computing module, there are some foundational things that I think is very, very important. If we are able to have a grasp of those, every other service that we'll be using, it's just going to build on, those foundational things. Yeah. And like we started out by setting up our AWS properly for proper use, and then we touched on the management side of AWS, which is the IAM service. Peradventure, I know Taiwo sent in Taiwo is not on the call today. Though we already took, uh, mentioned that won't be joining us, and mentioned that it dropped his kind of solution again. Whatever assignment or anything I say you guys should work on is not is basically so that you guys can have better understanding of what we talked about in during the session. Yeah, it's not like it's not a typical setting that we have to drop assignment and it needs to be graded. And I like that you guys have your WhatsApp group so you can always discuss, even though that's the essence of the Discord channel. So I can also partake of it. But you guys want to force me to join your WhatsApp group by force by fire. Yeah. But again, it's just so you can practice, get your hands dirty, and see if you understand all that we talked about. So you'll be getting a few of those, while we continue on this journey. Dan, I see your hands up.
Yeah, Mr. Mario, good evening.
Evening.
Yeah, for the tasks you gave us, I struggled creating the things. Maybe because of there are some videos I am yet to watch because I've been so busy. So I don't know if we can do something similar or if the plan was to do something similar to that.
Well, again, like I was just saying, is so that we already talked about everything you need to actually complete or to work on those tasks, we talked about it. And seeing that you said you've not seen the video, I can understand why, you probably are struggling to complete it. But they are very basic things. It's just about creating users and putting them in groups and assigning the right permissions to it. That's the groups. It's just to understand IAM, and I think I mentioned that if you relate it with creating users and groups on Linux is almost the same concept. Yes, Stafford.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was able to do the group, the group assignments, but
Yes.
I have the issue with when I was trying to use CLI.
Um,
So actually,
you want
so I had
to
issue there.
be a ninja. So I actually didn't expect that anybody would do it through the CLI. It would require that you go
Okay.
through the documentation, the AWS documentation to get the right commands to both create the users and add them to groups, creating groups.
Because
Mm,
I use a script for it. Bash script for it. I was able
to write the bash script.
to run through the first one, just a sample, the DevOps group to do the scripts. Bash script, yeah, it actually ran stressful, but I couldn't see when I went to the console to check if I can see the resource I created. I was not seeing them. So that was the issue just had anyway.
So obviously, if you want to use the CLI, it would require that you again go through the documentation to get the right commands, to use. So that's it's a bit, advanced, and I like that you actually took that route. It shows that you like strong meats, you like tough things. I don't like tough things. If there's an easy way to actually do something, I'll choose that route rather than then maybe after I've learned the easy way, then I can now say, okay, yes, let me learn the hard way. Well, yeah. Since we started this session, I know Mr. Hartford has been ahead of even myself. Yeah. Well,
That's true. That's true.
finally, he has been going forward, and I like that very, very much. Yeah, Mr. Olajumoke, see your hands up. This is the first time I'll be seeing this name in this session.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Good evening.
Jeez.
Good evening. Welcome.
Oh, good evening. Yeah, sorry. I think I'm not sure my network is too strong. I'm actually new to the platform, and I've been trying to catch up with the
Videos.
videos. Yes. So, but I think by this week I should be able to catch up. But I understand there's a group, a WhatsApp group. How can I join the WhatsApp group? Because I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to join, even though I know I have the Discord,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to join because I see everywhere is silent throughout the week.
Serious. Allah.
Anyways.
I think you can drop your number on the chat here. Maybe let me add you to the group now. Follow me or follow me, right? Yeah, drop your number with him and the group to add you. Or you send the link to her.
I guess you should please add also because I think me myself,
Hello?
I'm not in that group.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe I was not there when it was discussed. So I just dropped my number on the WhatsApp group, on the chat box. Maybe it could help add also the group.
Okay.
The group basically is just for members to.
Okay, so I can send it on the chat right now.
Yeah, so the group basically is just for members to communicate, like we people to communicate, because as everyone is not that common or used to Discord, so We just created a group just for people to share their issues of which they try to practice during the week. So that was just like the basic reason of creating the group.
Okay. Sorry, I lost connection for a minute there. I think even Mr. Olajumoke has been thrown out. Okay, so I see. I thought Bliss was already part of the WhatsApp group.
I guess I missed the. Maybe I was not around when it was
Okay.
hearing
Okay.
this for the first time.
Okay, so welcome those that are just joining. We were actually discussing the mini task that I was given to you guys to work on. And I think Master Hartford actually went above and beyond and tried doing it using the CLI. Okay. So again, that's if for Dan and for whoever has not seen the video, you can always just go over those videos and those things would you'll see that they're pretty straightforward. So for those that and if you're still having issues, again, that's why your that platform is there for you guys to actually use to share knowledge, help each other understand some of these basic things. Yeah. All right. So I think even as a means of, again, this is still related to IAM. I'm just going to, before we jump into whatever it is that I have planned for today, I'm going to quickly create a user. So I think, sorry, I hope my screen is being still. Can you guys still see my screen? I don't think, looks like I'm not sharing.
No.
No.
Oops.
It's visible now.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let me go to IAM. Before we jump into the heart of today's, just like for like a quick refresher to see, I know this will probably be a walk in the park for some of us. My network is still not very cooperative. Let's see, I can quickly switch to this other one. Give me a minute, please, y'all. Let me get up. This networks are very. I think this is better. All right, so this is just going to take 5 minutes. I would, again, this is like a mini class walk, but I'm going to create a user and let me just call it, don't need to provide it console access because I don't, let's just create a group. Is it necessary? Nope. I'm just creating this user. Don't need. So I noticed that as I was, okay, I created this user. It's supposed to be Moyo, but I, in a way, made an error. How can I remedy this? How can I change this user's name from, Moto to Moyo? Can you guys help me out here? Or if there's anybody that can actually recreate it on their end, maybe just quickly create a user with just this user and then, try to edit it in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to try to do it on my end here also, see if I can have that done. Are you guys with me? Do you guys understand what I'm asking of y'all?
Yes,
Hello?
we do.
Okay. As basic as this is, it can has anybody been able to solve this? I just wanted to quickly point out something real quick from this.
Can you go to instances?
To instances.
Yeah.
You mean EC2?
Yeah, EC2. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see how EC2 has anything to do with this.
Sorry. I thought you were trying to change like the EC2 name or something. I didn't know you were trying to change the group
No,
name.
it's
Sorry.
the IAMU that I just created now. So while I was creating it, I had the typographical.
Can we change it on the tag? The tag.
Okay. Tags. There are no tags here. The name is not a tag, actually. It's the username.
Okay, no tag. Yeah. Under info.
Click on info. Info is just going to tell you identity. That's where is an entity that you create. There is no.
Can we just delete it and
I'm recreating. That's the easy way out. Yeah.
No, it's not everything you delete now.
Obviously, like that is very, very easy. Yeah, just recreate since there's no permission or anything to it. But no, that's not the approach I want you guys to use. So it's not possible, yeah. Balumi, from the console, it is not possible, but from the CLI, it actually is possible. So I'm going to bring up my CLI. So this is again is just to point out that I'm not saying okay. So it just came when Atford mentioned that he tried running a script to run that that task, and I saw that it actually made sense to actually think of using the CLI because you are communicating directly with the AWS APIs. You're not using the interface, and so you actually have some things that you want to do, maybe correct some things, and then you are looking for a way through the CLI. I mean, sorry, through the console, and there is no way. You again take the easy way out. Changing username, editing a username, as simple as that is one of those things that you can actually do from the console, but from the CLI. There is, a way of doing that. So I have my AWS CLI configured already, and I can confirm this by running AWS IAM. Why is this thing lagging? This thing is. Yes, thank you very much, Balumi. That is the command to actually edit it. If only my CLI is going to. Everything is working here. Oh, yes. Come on now. I hope you guys can hear me. I feel like this network is not.
Yeah, we can.
I can't seem to type anything in here. It's annoying. But I'm getting a how good bandwidth now. So what's up? Let me just close this thing and then reopen it. It looks like it's not. Okay. So I'm just going to do it. Let me confirm that I actually have access to the AWS CLI. Let me list users. Okay, yeah, I see that I have access. I have the Moto user here. So let me run the command that let me just send in AWS. Come on, why? This system is begging to be shut down. Nothing you want to do. I'm not shutting you down. Oh, come on. It's supposed to use just 5 minutes on this and like the thing is typing, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, I know what is going on with my terminal. Okay, I can type this now. AWS IAM date user. The old username is Moto, and then I want to change it to new user name, small, and if I do an IAM list users now, I see that the name has changed. And if I come back here and probably come back to users and hit a refresh, I see that the name has changed. So as basic as this is, there is no option to do it from the console. Again, this just tells you that if you have a good grasp of using the CLI, you have you're at an advantage. And I think these are one of the things that we tried. And for most of the tools that you'll be using, you'll see that if you are comfortable writing commands, you would get by so many, you'll be able to solve little and even complex tasks, yeah, even faster. All right, I hope that message was clear. Again, I'm not saying you should use the CLI for every of your tasks. So we would, when we need to use the CLI to automate things, we would use that. But for the most part, we would be using the console, yeah, for most of the things we will be doing moving forward. All right. Once again, Jumoke is okay. You're welcome. And I kind of lost network when you were talking earlier. I don't know if they explained. Discord is the official channel that we are supposed to use for communication, albeit like Bliss was explaining, it's not everybody that is used to it now. Or so the guys came up and then they decided to have a WhatsApp group to facilitate collaboration, because one of the things that's part of the skills that you need to take away from this bootcamp is the ability to work as part of a team. And so yeah, the WhatsApp. So you can drop I think the WhatsApp link has been dropped in the chats. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, yes, I've joined.
Palumi.
I've
Okay, you've joined. Yeah.
I've
All right.
seen it.
All right. Cool.
Yes, Pelumi
All
sent it to me.
right. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Thank you,
So
everyone.
once again, I hope you are able to catch up because we've already started out, the session, albeit we are still in the foundational parts. That's what I like to call it. And this is the part where we build, we kind of lay the foundation for all of these things that we'll be learning. Where as part of laying the foundations, we are also learning, some things. The videos are there for you to go over, and if you have anything that you probably don't understand, you can always drop it in the Discord channel. Again, that is where I have the oversight. Yeah, and if again there is need for us to have a session aside our sessions here to kind of clarify or unblock if you're trying to work on something that we did in class and you're trying to replicate it and then you having issues, you can always reach out and I'll find time and then we can, go over it. Yeah, so that you don't have to wait till, our sessions over the weekend to be unblocked because there's quite a lot that we'll be touching on. And I keep saying a month to learn cloud computing is, I don't want to say impossible, but it's a long shot. But I'm going to try my best. Like I said, we'll be working on projects so that we are able to cover much ground and all the necessary things that you need to be able to, for you to build on. I'll try, in God's grace, to hand it over to you guys. All right, so our agenda for today. Okay, I think I've been, I've always start each session with a mini TED talk, and it's always centered around learning anyway. So for today is about learning a little each day in bits. Yeah, some of us don't have the time, like Dan said, which is always very, very, filled with activities and what have you. And so all of the time, probably we only have the weekends to, even some of us still work weekends, then the little time that we have for the session, it's just to come to the session. But I've over um, with experience, I've learned that even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, you try to go over, some things, even if the videos, by the time you spend, little time you have, you quickly, uh, use it to review a few things. With time, you're able to cover videos for that week. I know going over those videos can actually be a lot, trainees have even when I was in, again, I've gone through boot camps and I know if I miss any session, going back to watch the videos it always takes a miracle. Yeah, I'll just hope that in the next session I'm able to pick up whatever it is that was taught. Yeah, but learning in bits can also actually help, every little time that one has. Time management also would come into play here. Um, and trying to make it a habit, that way, your goal, whatever your goal is, to either get a role before we finish the cloud module, or trying to gain more experience, you're able to reach that much quickly. Yeah. So the advice is you need to set time aside to learn. Yeah, even if you have to burn the midnight candle, like they say, just to get over that line to complete those videos and then understand what it is that you know um, we are talking about, or is trying to pass across. Yeah, so moving on. So today, well, hopefully we are able to cover this. I want us to cover this today, so we can go into much more. Everything we'll be talking about is actually interesting. So, like I said, we are still in the foundational part of all of this, and then it's this foundation that actually will be building on. Yeah. So if we are able to grasp all of these things, you see that all of those services, yeah, all you would, if for any new service, any service you're trying to learn, I keep saying the best place to get uh, uh, um, information about any service is from the creators of those service, AWS in this case now. So for every AWS service you want deeper understanding, yeah, before you even consult any book that says, master AWS from zero to hero or whatever it is that's been called, you first want to go to the AWS's documentation. You're going to get first and up-to-date information about those services. Yeah. And so again, in all of these sessions, we will be introduced to so many services, and using it, very, very important. Yeah. But if you now say you want to be able to, you know, when they wake you up, you want to talk about the service, all the things that the service can do, and all of those things, you would need to take that extra step to read. I'll be able to be sharing documentations with you that's, again, theoretical things about each of the services that you will be learning. Yeah, so today we'll be looking at a very, very vital service in AWS. In fact, the all of cloud computing is actually hinged around, networking. I think I mentioned, yeah, in one of our sessions, yeah. So we'll be looking at the networking side of AWS, which is the virtual private cloud. Yeah, just be touching on some fundamental things there, understanding all of the components, because it has it's an island, and then it has components attached to it that makes it actually stands. Yeah. And then so when we talked about some of those different career paths in AWS, that cloud computing opens you up to, there is something kind of similar across those career paths, and understanding cloud architecture, the ability to see an architecture, and then you're able to both interpret it if you have to, or provision it, deploy everything inside of that architecture. And this would give you an advantage. I've had to be in meetings with, various stakeholders trying to figure out, okay, yes, this is what we want. This is what we are trying to achieve. And then we want to have our APIs, our microservice in different running in different services, and how do we put all of this together? And right on that call, I just quickly bring up the tool I use in drawing architecture, and then I'm able to depict that. And like say a picture paints says 1,000 words, yeah, and then right on the call I just stop them like, okay guys, I think I have like a pictorial representation of all the things that we've been talking about for the past minutes. And then when I bring up a very simple architecture, everybody is like, wow, like, oh wow, this simplifies everything. Okay, can we have this in this session? Can we have this? And then we're able to finalize on so many deliberation, and then say, okay, yes, we can go ahead and yes, let's set this in motion. So understanding how to both come up with your own architecture there, as we'll see when we jump into this, there are you have architectures already pre-templated architecture, but for the most part, you see that what it varies from organization to different projects actually have unique kind of need. Yeah, so the ability to come up with your own, architectural diagram. Again, for whatever role that you're going to be in, whether again, this is a DevOps bootcamp. So as a DevOps professional, you should be able to come up with architectural diagrams on the fly, then for those that probably won't find themselves in cloud solutions architecting role, this is going to be the meat of what you'll be doing, on the regular. And even if you are going to be a cloud engineer, you still need to the solutions architect to come up with their architectural diagrams and pass it over to you, and then you how to provision all of those things. If you don't know how to, it's like a builder now that cannot read an architectural diagram. It's going to, just be building anyhow. So both this and then the VPC, they are kind of very, very fundamental, as we'd see. They go hand in hand, so the ability to both draw your own. So we'll walk through that. It's going to be an hands-on session. And for those that are not, because we'll be using some terminology as well, we are, drawing our architecture, I will be taking a step back to briefly talk about IP addresses. Again, very, very brief. For those that do not have, networking or IT background, this is for you guys. So, and then the side annotation, which is very, again, just on the, high level, so that when you see it, you're able to understand, okay, this is what this means. And if time permits us, we're going to jump into creating provisioning the architecture that we will be drawing. Again, will be this 3-tier custom VPC is what will be. Every other thing, everything that we'll be doing moving forward is going to be based on this architecture. Just every service that we'll be, learning about, we'll be putting it inside of this containers that we will be working on today. Yeah, so I hope you guys are as pumped as I am in learning all of these things. Yeah. Okay, so we'll be jumping right into it. VPC. So VPC is, I have, again, yes, we have all of this. So let's minimize this. So the VPC is like very, very fundamental. Yeah. And I said it incorporates several different components. So these are all of the components, okay, aside from the first one, which is still depicting the logical isolated virtual network in the cloud. Basically, it's, I'll say it's analogous to having your own data center inside of AWS. Yeah, so I know we have been talking about data centers over and over again. So AWS makes it that you can actually kind of depict so your own or have your own data center, or if you want to have multiple data centers now, you can have it. So VPC is that service that allows you to kind of have your own portion of the AWS cloud within a region. Yeah, so it's a region specific service. Yeah, so it gives you total control of your virtual networking. So everything we're working on is virtual now. So your networking environment, instead of having to set up your own, renting your own warehouse and racking and stacking servers in there, you can have a virtual networking environment. You have the option to select your IP ranges, creating of subnets. Again, these are some of the components that we'll be talking about, configuring route tables, virtual gateways in terms of NAT gateways and internet gateway and what have you. And whatever class of IP address you want to have, whether version 4, version 6, you can, everything you can actually think of that you want to do in a typical data center, you can actually run, in the VPC. So again, this is where it's very, very foundational. So every service that would be creating in AWS, is going to be sitting inside. Like you can't, so you can't deploy or run an application in thin air. It has to be sitting inside of an infrastructure somewhere. So this is that part of cloud computing that makes every other thing that we'll be doing possible. Yeah, so it's like say you want to build a house now, and then you don't lay the right foundation. That's how I see VPC now. Is very, very foundational. If you are able to grasp VPC and all of its components, trust me, every other service that I'll be talking about would come into place. You can know, okay, yes, even if you are experiencing any issues, you know that, okay, yes, I can, I'm able to troubleshoot from the very lower level. Yeah, so we'll be talking about each of these components again, very, very briefly, and I think it will make more sense when we actually get into deploying it. I know theories can, well, these theoretical sessions are just to, so you guys can start noting down this vocabularies. Yeah, so if you need to go take extra read up on it, yeah, you're able to go. Yeah, so the VPC is like the mother of every other component that you have here. Is the service itself, and every other thing, they are like sub-components. Yeah, that's what I call them. Yeah, sub-components of the VPC. So by default, there's a default VPC that gets created in each region, with default subnets. We'll see all of these things much later. So I'm just going to quickly run through all of these services because I don't want to bore you guys with. There are key things that we should know, but as we are creating them, I'll just be chipping in all of those things one after the other. Yeah, so the subnet is basically a segment of the VPC, yeah, and then you resides inside of say a single availability zone. It can yeah, so you break up your much larger network into chunks, so you can group resources that should be together. Again, it's just a way to segment your your um, your networking environments for easier management of services, again, that you would be putting inside. And you can have multiple subnets inside of an availability zone. We talked about availability zones and regions, during the introductory part. Yeah, so you can break up your availability zones into subnets, and then you can have multiple ability zones depending on the region. We'll see all of these things sooner. The internet gateway is a virtual appliance, kind of, yes, that you place. It works, it allows your VPC to have to connect to the public internet. Yeah, so for obviously you want some form of connection to the internet for patching of your resources. If you need to, even if your application is an in-house application, you still need to, pull updates, update your servers and what have you. And if it's, we can, for subnets, we can have public subnets, we can have private subnets, but there is still, so your PC now, your PC in front of you, if you don't have internet connectivity, you won't be able to join this meeting. So each VPC now should have an internet gateway. You know, I think the internet gateway, I can liken it to your router now that you have, or that your ISP provides for you, that you connect to, and then you're able to, you know, go onto the internet and then download stuff and what have you. So the internet gateway is, again, is a sub-component of the VPC, working inside of the VPC. Then we have the route table. The route table or router now, it connects basically takes care of routing, within the VPC and even outside of the VPC. So the route table is used to configure, uh, uh, how packets are being sent, how communication is being done. Like I said, you can have multiple subnets, and then how are resources inside of those different subnets, how are they able to talk to each other? Yeah, so it's the route table in there that you actually configure how you want, packets to be sent around those routes table. Sorry, those subnets. We have pairing connection. This is just a way of connecting multiple VPCs. So you can have, I think, 5 VPC per region, and then we have multiple regions. So if your organization, has, needs to have resources across multiple regions, you can have 5 VPCs, in each region, and then you can connect all of them together, because like I said, these VPCs, they are isolated. So if you don't explicitly say, oh, yes, I want this to connect to be able to communicate with this, it won't be possible. So you need to connect them just like you would do if you were networking an enterprise and kind of network. If you want your data center in New York to be able to send packets to the one in I don't know, California now, there should be a form of connectivity, however you're going to run it. So that's what the pairing connection actually does. You connect multiple VPCs together. We have VPC endpoints as creating a private connection to public AWS services. So you have an on-premise data center now, and then you want to connect to AWS. You don't want whatever it is that you're sending, you have sensitive data that you're sending, and you don't want it to go through over the internet. So you can create private connections using the different VPC endpoints that can be used to kind of establish a connection between your data center and AWS. This, I don't think we'll be able to, again, use this because we don't have data centers, except maybe Hartford, you have data center that you want us to communicate with, but I think it's a bit advanced when it comes to a month. We can spend a month, configuring different VPC endpoints. So we have NAT gateway and NAT instances. They are kind of the same resource. The NAT gateway is like a newer version, kind of a newer appliance, let me say. It's managed by AWS. It enables resources in the private subnets. Like I said, can have private and public subnets. Public subnets has direct connection to the internet and vice versa. But for resources, in the private subnets, there is no direct communication with the internet. So the NAT gateway enables, you use that to sit like a middleman now that allows communication to the internet from resources in the private subnet. So we have some resources that you don't just want to be exposed to the internet because you have, so your database, for instance, now, even if you don't have sensitive data on it, as it's a database, it contains probably data that the organization uses, for its day-to-day activities, and you don't want just anybody to have access to that. And anything you expose that is exposed to the internet, is potentially at risk here, because you have so much flying over the internet. You have people listening here and there for, sorry. Yeah, so the NAT gateway actually kind of, so if you need to patch those resources, they still have access to the internet, just that the internet does not, cannot connect to them. So that's what the NAT gateway does. It's like a a way controls how resources, communicates into the internet. So the NAT instance is like the older version of it. You create an EC2 instance, and then you provision, or you install the NAT. So NAT is network address translation. Yeah, is a tool kind of. Yeah. So this is you managing that provision, that appliance. I don't think anybody actually goes this route again, because again you have, and I said, can we differentiate between these two appliance components now, the NAT gateway and the NAT instance, in terms of deployments, the types of services that we talked about. Yeah, the NAT gateway is a platform as a service. It means it's a managed service. You don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure and what have you. All you need to do is configure it. If it needs, data, you provide it with the data that it needs to function. Yeah, so that's what the NAT gateway is a platform as a service. And then the NAT instance is an infrastructure as a service. Yes, is an infrastructure as a service. So you have full control over it. You have to, all the packages that you'll be using inside of it, you need to configure it yourself. When you need to update the instance, you have access to the instance. And again, again, I don't think there's anybody that actually still uses this. The NAT gateway, after it was introduced, everybody actually just moved to it. If you've ever configured a NAT instance, you know that it's actually plenty work. Yeah, you have to be very grounded in data communication, networking, to be able to set this up properly. And then we have the virtual private gateway. So it's like a VPN connection. Yeah, if you need to set up, it works alongside with VPC endpoints. You need to connect your data center to AWS services. You want to set up a VPN connection to, in a way, create a secure tunnel, to your data center. You don't want communication, just going over the internet. So you see that we have quite a number of components inside of this VPC. And then if we say, and each of these components, they are like a full-fledged service on its own. Yeah, but we'll be using the few ones that we'll be using them, one up, well, bit by bit. We'll cover quite a number of them. And then we have customer gateway, which is the customer side of the VPC. For all of this, we probably will not be able to use them, because it means we'll probably need to have a data center somewhere. Over the course of your career, you probably would be privileged to set up, VPN connections. Very, very is everywhere. I've set up a few, and each time I want to do it, I have to, again, the documentation is your best bets. So setting up all of these complex components. Yeah. So direct gateway also, for private network connection. We've talked about security group is an instance level firewall. It's basically a firewall that you put around your instances, yeah, to kind of shield it from not just anybody having access to it. We'll be creating a few resource security groups depending on what's the different services. So it's not just for EC2 instances now. We can have security groups for our databases, for a few other compute resources like that. Finally, hidden down here is network access control. Is basically a firewall also, but it's a firewall around is at the subnet level. We skip this. So we have network NACO, network ACL, is access control list. Again, you want to put like a firewall around your subnet. So the network ACL is what you use. So common question, both interview and then for those that will be writing certification, if you can differentiate if you can tell the difference between the security group and the network access control list. Again, this is the basic, the difference. The security group is a firewall, is an instance level firewall, and then the network ACL is, from the name, you can easily depict, is a subnet level firewall. So if you find yourself having to answer any questions around this is like the basis of it. Yeah. So these are the things that we will be but talking about all of this components should in a way, once you hear it, you should know exactly what it is being used for and why you would be needing it. Yeah, Adford, I see your hands up.
Yes, I just wanted to talk about this security group and NACO in terms of stateless and state.
I didn't get that.
I want to talk about this NACO and the security group in terms of being stateful and being stateless.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I want to. So, statefulness. Okay. The network access control is stateless. Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, I think I get what you actually meant now. The network access control list is stateless. This basically means that you have to explicitly it has to be explicitly allowed, in the rules. Yeah, but for security group, for the outbound rule, those ones, they are stateless. They are stateful rather. It only allows inbound traffic that are allowed. The outbound, regardless of what you have in there, it can communicate freely with anybody. Yeah. So I think when we start creating these things, it will make more sense. I thought that your hands are still being raised. I don't know if you still want to say something. I can barely hear you though. But...
Sorry, it's still down now. It's down now. Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, stateful, stateless, that is also a kind of difference amongst them. But if you can actually just this very basic one, I think we can stick to this for now. Yeah. All right. I hope you guys are still with me. For those that are new, I hope you have not been bombarded with so much.
It's so confusing.
Don't worry. Yeah. For now, it will look confusing when we jump into creating them. It'll make more sense now. Like I said, the VPC is a service and then it has subcomponents. And you see, most AWS services, you have in a service, you still have components that you can use along that particular service. And for most AWS services, you see they all work hand in hand. And I keep saying it. So once you are learning one, you must also learn others also. Yeah. Again, this is like an introduction, so you guys can see all that we want to work with today. I think when we start talking about architectural diagrams now, this would in a way paint a picture of all of these things. Some of them, not everything though. Yeah, and then we'll see some of them. We'll use some of them as part of the architecture that I want to create. So again, I keep saying, like I said earlier, let's come back here. So now we want to understand cloud architecture professionally. If you have any questions, you can ask before I, move on to these architectural diagrams around VPCs, that is. If not, if you are confused, I would just wait. Just calm down. Everything would make more sense now. Yeah, theoretical parts can be a bit annoying. Truly, I know. That's why I said if we are able to grasp all of this, trust every other thing that we want to do, it will be a walk in the park. Yeah. So now let's again, once we look at this architectural cloud architecture, yeah, it's all of these things will start coming into place. Yeah, so because of the number of services that AWS offers, this in a way means that we can actually build robust applications, and that's the whole goal of IT in general. Yeah, is revolved around software applications now, and then all of these cloud providers, AWS now provides all of the services for us to use together to build scalable applications that millions of people can use at the same time without experiencing any form of downtime or service disruption. So and with all of the number of services, this means is some complexities bound to come in. Yeah, and then if you say you want to just start provisioning all of the services without having a guide, a diagram, kind of. So I have in a time in my life worked with an architect. Yeah, but yes, yeah. So it's like saying you want to build a house now, and then you just bring artisans together. Yeah, start laying blocks without having a guide. Sort of. Yeah. By the time you erect that building and one small rain falls, yeah, it's coming down. Yeah. So this is kind of what our architectural diagrams will be doing to us. No matter how complex our application needs to be in terms of both it being robust and scalable, we can communicate this architecture effectively. We can, like I said, you will be in meetings with different stakeholders, and then they would just be beating around. They don't understand exactly. They just have, an idea of what they want to do, but they don't how they're going to get there. They don't know. So your goal would mostly be to help them see how all of these, things can come together, and then your architectural diagrams is the best way of explaining this. So I will be exploring a tool and a technique that will be that will help us create, professional architectural diagrams. And this would not just be coming handy, for AWS architectures now. if you find yourself, say you even need to design database schemas now. I don't know if anybody has actually done this before, but I've been privileged to also come up with database schemas, and these tools will help you also if you have to come up with a scheme of work. So the tool we'll be learning here would actually go way beyond just drawing AWS architectural diagrams now. It would help us in doing quite a lot. So Microsoft has the Microsoft VCO. I've used that before, and it's still actually very, very valid till now, Microsoft VCO, even though Microsoft VCO is not, with Microsoft, nothing is actually free. It's part of, I think it's part of the Office suites, but you have to explicitly say you want it. Yeah, and if you have your organization uses in Office 365, I think it comes, well, if you subscribe for, it's a very, very good visual tool if you need to come up with mind maps, Gantt charts, flow diagrams. So the ability to actually use this tool would save, would help a lot in this career. But there's a free version of this that we will be learning. Before we even get to creating our own, I mentioned AWS actually provides kind of reference architectural diagrams. This would probably not fit for most time into what we want to do. Like I said, every project is unique. So depending, again, you can always, I just use this for reference to be able to see, because while drawing your own diagram, there are some guidelines that you need to take into consideration. We have the well-architected framework built for scalability, for hireability, security, and all of those things. So you always have these references now. And again, this can be overwhelming depending on what you're looking for. If, say, let me just search for compute now, which probably is the easiest. So depending on what kind of application you are deploying, yeah. So you can always come here and check one of these architectures. See how simple this is. This would, so if you are able to interpret this, yeah, you have just taken your learning to another journey. So this is exactly what we want to try to learn how to both come up with on our own. And with that, if we see any of this, we're able to interpret it easily. And then if we need to, if we see an architectural diagram, I've even been privileged to see some job, some technical task, for some organization, and they tell you to come up with an architectural diagram and both implement it. Yeah, so I think this is very, very common to DevOps roles. They'll tell you to come up with an architectural diagram for maybe a microservice architecture that would require that you use on the list the services, and then after you come up with the diagram, they tell you to go ahead and then provision all of those things. Yeah. So again, I can't overemphasize the ability what this would actually do, and then this would shed more light into both the VPC that we want to talk about now, or that we have started talking about, and some other things. Like I said, you have all of these diagrams, quite a number of them, that you can always come to reference. This is the one I clicked on now, very, very straightforward, and it gets really, really complex. Yeah. So this now is even it's going just beyond the VPC now, we have quite a number of services here that, again, don't bother yourself with all of the services we have inside here. If we understand the foundational part, all of the services, how they come into the foundation would make more sense later. So that's my goal for the next 15-20 minutes, is to let you see how to come up with your own how we can come up with our own architectural diagram. And the diagram we will be coming up with now is going to be like the base for everything that we'll be learning moving forward. Everything we'll be deploying, every AWS service that we'll be learning, that we'll be using as part of our projects, we're going to be putting them inside of this architecture that we're coming up with. So the tool that I use, because again is open source, and is app.diagram.com. I'm just going to diagrams.net. So it's app.diagrams.net. It's a free tool. It basically does everything that Visio will do for you. So I will be saving this to my device, be creating a new diagram. I'm just going to call it July Cloud. Oh boy. And I'm going to create a blank diagram. So these are all the things that you can actually use it for UML, for wireframes, for designers amongst us. But we're using it for the cloud to create.
What about Lucid charts? I know I've used Lucid.
I think it's the same thing. Lucid charts. If you go to Lucid chart, I think it will redirect you to app.diagrams.net. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's good that we have folks that already know these things amongst us. So this would make it much easier. All right. So by default, I don't think you'd have. I hope this is not too dark. I don't know why it's showing me dark mode. I don't want the dark mode. I don't want the grid also. I want a white page. Maybe we should even use the Lucid charts, but I think it just redirects here. So there is draw.io also. Draw.io. I think again, draw. They all redirect to app.diagrams.net. Yeah. So Lucid. Lucid.app. Nope. It's going to ask me to log in. Don't want to log in. Lucid.app also is. I don't want to log in. Yes, it has that AutoCAD kind of it gives you all of these tool sets right here and what have you. So since we want to use this for cloud diagrams, I'm going to come down to more shapes, and I'm going to look for AWS. So I'm going to click on AWS. So this I don't want UML because I don't want to draw UML or entity relation. If I wanted to come up with, I'm not doing flow diagrams also. So I just want to make it simple so I don't have too many things right here. So immediately I choose that, I can see automatically I have
Sorry. How did you get here?
Okay, apps, just go to apps.diagram.net. Is a web application kind of, instead of having to download Visio or any other tool. So just go to app.diagrams.net. I'm going to drop it in the chat for those that are interested in it. So I have all of these groupings now. So for whatever I want to do, whatever service in AWS I want to bring in, I have this in here. I'm still not comfortable with this. The larger screen. Like this dark screen.
You can change the color. Just go to the right hand side of you see background color.
No, it's going to be no.
No, that's the size. Underneath, you see the color. No, underneath it, yeah, background color. Yeah. Then you choose the color.
Oh, makes sense. Just give me white. Let's make more sense. Thank you. All right, so everything that we'll be doing is going to be, I'll be picking from all of this, and I will try as much as possible to make this. So this grouped. So depending on what you want to do, if is a grouping with time, yeah, you will kind of get familiar with all of the different parts. And then we have the search, so you don't know what you're looking for. Say I'm looking for AWS now. I can come here and search for AWS Cloud, or depending on whatever it is that you want to do. So you can have the AWS Cloud, but I know that that isn't, so we can have AWS Cloud, or you see more results. But I know I will be doing a lot of grouping drawings now. So I will be coming here and I'm looking for AWS Cloud. So once you click on it, it will put this, and then you can scale this however you want. Oh, now I see why that's black is. Let me go back to my black. No. No. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this represents your overall cloud AWS account now. So now I think it's always a good thing to say tag now, or name everything that you are doing in here, because this is going to be your guide, and if you don't design to scale, you will end up when you want to start doing when you want to start provisioning it, you would probably end up mixing things around. So I like to even drill down to say the region now. So I said this is my AWS, represent my AWS account now. So I can have multiple of this architecture now, and so I can have it for different regions. So for each region, I'd like to have different, depending on what we're having in that region. Yeah. So I will be naming these things, very, very well. So the region where we'll be doing this is US East. Yeah, US East. That's not Virginia.
US-East-1. No, Virginia.
Yes, US East-1. Okay, I think that will be much, much better. US East-1. To put the full name there, and now I can now put in my VPC. VPC is also an AWS grouping. So once you around all of this with time, where is VPC? It's VPC. We should have multiple VPCs though. Okay, VPC is fine. So I can put this in here. have my VPC. And let me name this. I'm just going to call it mobile VPC. And then for each, okay, for VPC now, you need, like I said, VPC, you have access to, you get to while setting up your VPC. So usually it depends on how your organization is structured. You probably have, networking guys that would have, given you a set of CIDR, block of IP addresses now. Yeah, but again, I will be talking about this CIDR notation in 1 minute. So you bear with me now. If for those that probably do not understand what I am going to be typing in here, this is the CIDR notation for this 10.0.0.0/24. I will explain this in a minute. And now I want to have availability zone in here. Availability zone, I said, is like a data center, and each region has multiple data centers now. So I will be building for high availability. So I want to duplicate this. Okay, so this availability zone 1, I can say this would be in US East 1A, and of my availability zone 2, this would be US East 1B or 1C, whatever. All right, so now I can have my subnets now. Let's quickly break this down. Subnet should be networking. Subnet. Okay, subnet. Multi-public, yeah, so we can have public and private subnets. So let's have, so I will explain all of these things in a minute. So you guys, please just bear with me for now while I try to, this public subnet, easy one. And now we have a CIDR here of 10.0.0.0/24. And I'm going to replicate this in, go back, stop, replicate this in here. And this is going to be in the 0.1, my public subnet AZ2. And I'm going to have private subnets. Once I finish with my subnet, I'll take a break so that you guys can bombard me with questions for those that think I'm doing magic. Private subnet AZ1 .0.0 not to a 10.0.2.0/24. So pasting this in here. Zero dot 3 AZ2. I still need another private subnet in here. And this will be fine. 0.3 is 4. subnet easy one. Hybrid subnet is a 2.5. Subnet is a 2. All right. I think I have the case now. And so all of the things that we were talking about, the components, the VPC itself we have in here, then we have subnets. Like I said, availability zones are they are segments of they are they are like data centers now, in your region. Each region has multiple availability zone, and we use this mostly to create to make our infrastructure highly available. So what I'm doing with this two availability zones is basically I'm mirroring what we have in here down here. So in case anything happens to this availability zone, would have like redundant applications now running in here also for high availability, basically. And I said can we take a 10 minutes break and then come back for all of this explanation? I know there's a lot to take in, so let's go and take water and then come back for all of this explanation. Yeah, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Hi guys, welcome back. Hope you guys are ready for more bombarding. All right, so we were trying to make sense of the architecture we have thus far. So I'm just going to briefly again go over region and then all right, so you guys can unmute and ask wherever it is that you are confused, you can just ask. So thus far we have our region. We talked about the concept of region earlier, which is just a physical location around the world. We have clusters of data centers. So our region here is US East 1, and then we talked about our VPC, which is the logical isolated kind of networking environments. Now we have, albeit this our VPC has as part of its infrastructure is located in two availability zone. An availability zone is a data center, basically somewhere. So we can have an organization so this is one of the benefits of the cloud now. If you were, say, an enterprise network now, the data center will probably be in the same building, but now we can have data centers in multiple sites, different locations, albeit in the same region now, just so in case if anything happens to this first data center, our application, because we are like replicating all that we have in the first data center and the second data center. And if this goes down, we are able to still serve our customers, with the backup, if you have it, application running in the other data center. That's basically what we've had so far. But for each data center now, we have now subdivided them into segments, inside of our data center where we have our racks and stacks. We have racks of servers now that is we call the public subnets, and then we have other two other private subnets, and this is just so we can in a way separate our different resources into groups. It's just a segment of our VPC. Yes. Thus far. So is anybody still having issues with what we have spelled out here? So I can still break it down further if need be. I said we will be looking at the notation we have here. This, our CIDR notation. Okay, so let me quickly explain what CIDR notations are. So or IP addressing now. Just go through IP addressing and then CIDR notation. I'm going to quickly bring up my whiteboard to do this. Can you guys hear me? I hope you guys can. Hello?
I can
I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you very much. Don't mind me. I like feedback. All right, like I said, I'm going to quickly bring up my whiteboard again, just to quickly go over IP addresses and CIDR notation. So again, from the very high level is what I will be presenting this on. I'm not networking can become very, very we can spend the whole of the rest of this month just talking about different networking, and I've been trying to chip in a few networking terminologies in all of these our session because again, the cloud requires that you have some form of foundational knowledge, around networking. Maybe not, all of the OSI model, packet switching, and what have you. But some of these fundamental things, as much as possible, have an idea of it. So, what is an IP address? So every device connected to the internet, is assigned a unique IP address, which acts like a say, how would I say, a digital home address now, or a digital name. More like digital home address. So it allows each of these devices to communicate and then to share information over the internet. That's how they are able to, that's how you are able to go to a site and then download whatever it is that you want to download, because your particular machine now that is connected has an IP address. And so when whatever it is you're downloading is seated, maybe across somewhere, far from where you are. And so for all of the things that you're downloading to get to you, it goes straight channel. Yeah. And each of those things, they are assigned with your IP address so they can locate your exact machine. So that's basically what an IP address is. And the IP address takes a structure. The structure of the IP address is it contains a set of, who is drawing on my board, of 4 numbers separated by a period. Who wants to take over this class? We hand over to you. Who is? How can I stop this? Somebody's saying I should stop. There's a way I can actually put this on presentation mode that you guys cannot. I can't figure that out now. That person should stop distracting me now. So folks are still going to go over this video and they shouldn't see all of this.
I feel you can change permission on who can access by the right hand side. If you click on the two double arrows you have on the right hand side, you can change permission on who can have access to edit the board.
Okay, I think whoever it is has come to. All right, so I was talking about the structure of an IP address consists of 4 sets of numbers separated by periods. I'm sure we have seen this over and over again. This is an IP address 172. Oh boy, the person is back. 31.0.0. So this is the structure of an IP address. Each set of this now. So this is a set of number. It's 8 bits. We call them octets. It's made up of 4 octets, 8 bits. So it's a 32 bits number. Each of these can range from between 0, can take a value between 0 and 255 for an IP version 4. Is an IP version 4. IP version 6 is much longer than this. It uses an hexadecimal format. I won't be bothering us with IP version 6 right now because getting IP version 4 would be sufficient for this. The IP version 4 is the older version and is still most widely used version of IP addresses now. I said it's IP version 4. So you usually see it depicted this way, IP version 4. It's a 32 bits number. However, it's getting challenging to get IP version 4. So because of the number of devices that's is being used, we have IoT and what have you now, requiring each device, requiring IP addresses. So the IP version 4 is actually it has limited address space basically, and so the number of devices that is available, on the internet now is getting very, very large. That's where the IP version 6 offers is spinning up, coming up pretty fast. In fact, right now AWS is saying that you will pay for using IP version 4, and that's to discourage people or to encourage people to start switching to IP version 6. Yeah. So that when you think about paying for IP version 4, you want to start having your device, your services use the IP version 6. Yeah, so I'm sure we are all used to, we are familiar with this. So I think the most important part of on this is the CIDR notation. And so the CIDR notation, CIDR is CIDR, some people call it CIDR, is classless interdomain routing. It's classless interdomain is a routing. Oops. All right. So is a notation, CIDR notation, that's what we call it, is basically a notation or a method used to identify or to break down or to identify subnetworks within a within an IP address, a set of IP addresses. Basically, it enables, well, it's used to allocate IP addresses more efficiently, and then to manage IP routing more effectively. So it's basic. It simplifies addressing. Is provides a more flexible and concise way of representing IP addresses. So I'm just going to use the example of what we have in our VPC that we just drew now. So we have a VPC now. Our VPC now has a side down notation. So this is how the side down notation looks like. /16. So this is representing a range of IP addresses. So from this again is saying from this we can have I think about 65,000 addresses from here. 65,000 thereabouts. Some I think 65,536. Yeah, I am correct. So just from this notation, this side notation, we can get 65,500. And what this means is that how we come about this 65,000. So we have the notion of the network parts. So like I said, this 4 octets that we have here, they are 8 bits each, 8. That's 32 bits. There's a 32 bits digits. So when you say /16, it's saying this first 2 octets. Octet is basically spelled octet. So that's an IP address. That's the first set of each of this now is an octet, and we have 4 octets in an IP address. So what this /16 again is saying is that this first 2 octets, which is 8 and 8, 16, is fixed. It doesn't change, and it represents like the network part of this CIDR. And then this last 2 bits, they can vary. And I said earlier that each of these can go from 0 to 255. So if you want to do the maths, you can go ahead and do it. So you can tick from this CIDR now, we can have 10.0. Like I said, the first 2 octets, they don't change. So if you want to get the number of IP addresses, you want to list each of them out now. You can go from 10.0.0.0. This is a valid IP address inside of this CIDR. And then you can go 10.0.1.0, and then you keep changing this one up to 255. And then you can go from 10.0, and then you decide, okay, yes, if I have 0 here, I want to, change this one to 1. That is, I want to do 10.0.0.1 and do 10.0.0.2. I want to be alternating the last one. So either which way you want to do it, so you can see, you can actually have, you can come up, permutate this as however you want. This just by alternating this last 2 octets. So usually this is, we call it the host part of ones that varies. But because we can have so much IP addresses inside of just this single notation, we can still now further break this down into, so this is one network now, and then we don't want to put all of our eggs inside just this one. We want to put them into separate grouping, so we can further break this down. So like I said, the first 2 parts now change is fixed. So we can have add this to it and say, okay, yes, from this /16, we want to subnet it and then use a /24. What /24 again is saying is this first three parts now is fixed. And if you take a look properly, from this first two parts is still obviously fixed here. So this is like a segment of this much larger network, albeit we've added this last part to it to make it fixed so that it's just this last part now that would be assigning to different hosts or different services. And what this means is we can have how many addresses in here. Let me see if you guys are following me. Am I speaking drama here?
I have about 65,000 addresses.
Not correct. It's just this last part now that is going
The
to.
last part, you can have 16.
I said we can go from 0 to 255. So this means we can actually have 256 addresses in here.
That's like the subnet now.
Yes, for this subnet. So that's what I'm trying to explain now. So this is a /24. This. So it's just this that will be changing. And then we can have another subnet, just like we have depicted. Now we are changing this to 1, which is still going to be, again, from this first two doesn't change. But for this subnet now, it means this first 3 is not changing. This is going to be another subnet, and we can also have 256. So if we keep breaking down this our much larger network, we can have up to 256 different sub networks, and then these are 65,000 now. We've broken it down into 256 different IP addresses. Yeah. So this is kind of an overview. You can see with this side annotation now, we don't have to list each of the IP addresses that we can have. It just helps us group these IP addresses together. Are you guys still with me? For those that are not familiar with this, do you understand this best efforts that I think I have put into trying to explain what CIDR means? By the way, you that you're interested in networking, oops. Is it just me? Or is it just my network that is not behaving well? Dan. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Hello. Hi, guys. Okay. Why is nobody responding?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, just wanted to, you guys, do you understand this, or do I need to go over it again?
Trying to
Not
get
at
like a better on the I basically understand it that is using the, you know, like when you're on your normal Windows system, when you go to like the settings, try to edit the settings, either IPv6 or IPv4. If you're trying to edit the Ethernet or Wi-Fi settings, when you're trying to do that configuration, how to a network or how to a domain. So I'm just trying to navigate towards that system.
Okay.
So kind of like, because I basically like grasps what you're doing, the subnets, the IP addresses, the ranges, and all of that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. All right. I think all of this will still make more sense. Again, this is like a very, very high level introduction. I think what you guys should take note of is all of these terminologies: CIDR, octet, and because we'll be using it, I pointed to it in the diagram that we were coming up with, and because I didn't want to it's just a way of explaining that side annotation. Yeah, so I will be coming back to architectural diagram. So that's basically what we did here. We have our VPC now, which is like the mother network, and then we are now breaking that much larger VPC into sub network. So we can have inside of this subnet now, we can have say we are creating, we have 200 EC2 instances in our organization. We can have, or even if we have 500, we can now separate those 500 into different subnets. We can have 200 here, 100 here, 100 here, and we replicate it across the availability zone. That's basically what we just did now, taking this much larger network and breaking down into smaller networks. Albeit now we have in a way still broken. We are breaking this further down, that we can have public subnets, which means every resource in here would be able to communicate with the internet, and then the internet also can communicate with it. For looking at this from the application deployment standpoint, you have your front-end applications now. Front-end application is what your customers interface with. You probably have those inside of your public subnet, because everybody needs to come, see that, and then communicate with that. Then you can have see your APIs now, back end sitting in the private subnets, which should only have just the front end application should be able to communicate with the backend application, because that's where logic is coming from. And then the backend, you can have your database also. So would see how we're going to actually put resources in all of this sooner. Like I said, everything that we'll be doing moving forward is going to be hinged around all of this. Every resource that will be created is going to be sitting in one of this subnet. And then again, we are trying to do this, learn the well-architected framework, which means yes, we can would have our application highly available in case, again, I think by convention, well, they're saying now you even want to use 3 availability zones minimum, to have your application up and running at all time. But this means you would be having, to pay triple of whatever it is that you are paying in each of your availability zones. So depending on your organization, you want to build, if you have applications, that should never go down, you probably want to consider multiple availability zones. Yes, at Ford. So if you have resources, we'll talk about Bastion hosts, when we start deploying all these things. So the concept of Bastion hosts, when you have resources in the private subnets, because they are not exposed to the internet, and then you need to maybe connect to it, SSH into it. You can have a Bastion host inside of your public subnet. That's because all of the resources in here, we'll talk about, I mentioned route tables now that you use, that's allows routing of traffic across your subnets now. So you have route tables that you use in arranging that. All right, so let's quickly complete this architectural diagram. Like I said, your VPC as it is now is just here. There's no connectivity, to the internet. So I'm going to add an internet gateway, which is the virtual appliance that would allow, is a VPC resource. So it's going to be sitting on the VPC here. Yeah, so it allows that this VPC has access to the internet. It's like your router, just your ISP router that you get that's you are connected to, like an access point if you want to have it. Yeah, so we have that in there. Also, what do I need to name this? I have space for you. Okay, that's fine. All right, so said we can now have our route tables. Let me have just public routes table. Try use your choose here. Select our route table. Space will not allowable. Let's call this public route table. Nope. Okay. So I can have direction. Nope. Hey, directing this thing can be. So this is getting true. This must frustrate me. Nope. The spacing here is not good. No. Where's this space? I create more space in here for you. Join the arrows around this can be frustrating. So basically this arrow is supposed to point here. I'm supposed to have an arrow point here. It's just supposed to go in here. Oh, don't frustrate me. All right, I've tried my best with this. So what this is saying is traffic from the internet now is going to go through, coming from and through the internet will be going to these two public subnets. It uses this public subnet. We can have private subnet here also, so a private route table. Now private route table AZ1 and and this traffic will be going in through here, and also to you just stay you this thing. We'll be having traffic go through here also. Yes, please pardon me. This my arrow is trying to take the piece. All right, so this will be routing traffic across these two, and then we can have a NAT gateway here also. NAT gateway. You can see how all of the different components that we talked about, our NAT gateway is sitting inside of this public subnet, so that you can use the text. Give me text. Way. So we can have this. So traffic coming from here. You can have traffic go through this NAT gateway. And then this NAT gateway would, because it's sitting inside of this public subnet, is able to route traffic through the internet gateway. I would depict this also. You can have another NAT gateway. Again, everything you do for this availability zone, you also want to do for the availability zone down here also. So you can have another private routable AZ2 and then route the traffic across this. So this is the most basic. So this can take different forms. This is just me being, I want to say, lazy now. Yeah, so you can have this depicted in different ways. So this is a 3-tier architecture. And how do you know the number of tiers that you have in architecture? Is basically the number of subnets that you have in your availability zone. So, it doesn't matter if it's public, because the NAT gateway needs to communicate using the internet gateway. It's NAT gateway, not NAT instance. Again, I don't. Nobody uses NAT instances again because you have to manage it yourself. So, maybe people like Adford would like to configure NAT instances. It means you have a VPC, sorry, an EC2 instance, and then you configure the network address translation protocol on that instance, and have it map to the private routable. So your NAT gateway would be sitting in the public subnet because it needs to communicate, to the internet. So requests coming from whatever resource in here now would be routed to the NAT gateway, and then in turn it sends the request through the internet gateway, and then when response comes, it translates it, and then have it sent to those resources. That's why it's actually in public subnets. Yes, Balumi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So at the first, I mean, the skeletal architecture of this diagram without the networking, I was wondering how the net like I had a few ideas about what appliances or what network device that you'll be introducing into this architecture. But because it's AWS, I'm not sure of the name. But I know that I know that for the public subnet, they don't really need much restriction in the middle. It's just for them to the public subnet to be able to communicate directly with the internet. But it's the private subnet that I was looking at, that what resource are you going to put in the middle of the internet and the subnet and the private subnet? Now, where I'm getting it confused now, you mentioned now that you are putting the NAT gateway inside the public subnet. Does it? I'm not sure. I understand really why it needs to be inside the private subnet, the public subnet. Can't it just be like outside? I mean, like the way this public route table, the
Yeah.
way this public route table is now, the NAT gateway should be here, and then the private route table. So that means the network will go through the will go from the I mean go from the private route table into the NAT gateway that is in front, or not even inside the public subnet, or in front. It will go into the NAT gateway, and then like you find a way to direct the arrow to go to move away from this public route
Yeah,
table, then
I
connect it to
understand.
the
I
internet.
understand. I understand what where you're going. So what you're saying is, so if we have an architecture that does not have a public subnet now, and we just have private subnet, how are we going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but as it is, our NAT gateway is a component that actually is running inside of an infrastructure. And for that reason, you can't just have it sitting afloat, yes. Just like our NAT instance now, it has to be sitting, it has to be inside of an
Inside.
instance. So it has to
And
be.
then why public then? Can it sit inside private?
If it sits inside private, then it does not have access to the internet gateway.
Okay, because the public has direct access to the internet, then that's why you are putting it inside.
Exactly.
Eh?
Yeah, that's how it's able to communicate with the internet and the private subnet.
me. Thank you.
Don't worry, all these things, when we start provisioning them, it will make more sense. When I was talking about it earlier, it was sounding very abstract, but now that we are saying the architecture is getting clearer. But when we now start implementing it, trust me, all of this you will now say, oh, this is why this is, because if you don't get this from this level now, by the time we start provisioning, it will be all moduled up. And I hope it's not just Balumi that this is starting to understand this gradually. I hope the rest of us, we are also starting to make sense one way or the other. Again, if it's not all coming together, by the time we start provisioning all of these things, we're going to take them one bit by bit. We have to create our EC2 instance, our VPC, and then the internet gateway, and the varying, because there are a lot of components in here, so if you just start creating, you probably miss one or two things. So now we'll be doing it manually, but when we now automate the creation, it makes more sense. But by the time you want to replicate this in like 5 different regions, you are bound to, probably make an error, maybe in the naming or what have you. Yeah, we'll be talking about automating all of these things later. Balumi, is your hand up again, or was it from before?
I have a question.
Go ahead, please, Austin.
Okay, my question is, I kind of like understand where you're coming from with this, but I want to ask, are we going to cover the part whereby we have to introduce the VPN, where people outside the network are trying to, or they have to build?
I would have loved that we introduced that. If you have a data center that we can use, that is already configured now, because VPN means you're basically connecting your VPC or your AWS now to an external resource, say data center now. But that's a bit is advanced. I don't think the number of services that we're trying to cover in 1 month would allow us go that deep into networking. Yeah. So let's still cover all of these basic components.
Okay. All right, thank you.
But again, if you want to set up a VPN connection, I there are resources, the AWS documentation that's broken it down. All you need to understand is the connection from the customer side, that's the data center now, and then all you need to configure in AWS, the AWS side of things. We have all of those components. By the time we come to I'll point out all of those things for us, how each of the configuration that you need to do, aside all of the things that you do from your AWS side. It's advanced, it's a bit advanced, so we won't be covering that. Yeah.
Because I know from the Microsoft point of view, I've been able to assist somebody in doing this, using laid down instructions in doing this, and actually succeeding with a good results with it. But coming from the AWS side, that's where it's kind of complicated, because AWS, to me, I'm still finding it very, very
they are complex. And again, they have very good documentation. Anything you want to do, is well documented, step by step, everything. Even, normally when you want to create a VPN connection from the data center, you probably need to do some configuration setup, the networking there and all of those, and then can't remember the IPsec protocols that you need to have configured that will make that VPN connection, possible. Yeah. So once you have that set up, it's very straightforward. Yes, Henry, your hands are up.
Yeah, I was just kind of looking at this diagram. Is there a reason why we are allowing direct access from the public router to the internet gateway? I thought everything was supposed to go through the NAT gateway in the public subnet.
So public, as the name says, it means everybody has there should be free flow of traffic in and out of it. So the resources that you want to put in here are resources that should be exposed to the internet. Say your front-end application now, where you have your different users, login page, dashboard, all of those things should be public. Yeah, so those ones, you can have them inside of your public subnets. So then you don't want any restrictions around people connecting to it. Yeah, and then because you should be able also to send traffic, response back, to access it. Yeah. But for the private ones, private subnets,
I was talking about the route table that you have, where you have this IP. Yeah, there's an arrow that goes directly to the internet gateway.
Yes, this is basically saying that traffic coming. Our route table is just a table of how packets are going to be distributed. So if traffic, so maybe I shouldn't have added this for the NAT gateway, because automatically anything you put in here, sends traffic using this route table. So usually we don't actually add the route table to our diagram here, or by saying something is public, it automatically means it's sending traffic to and from the internet gateway, and if it's private, if you have a NAT gateway, that would actually send it to it. Maybe that's why it's confusing. Yeah, but I just needed to add this here so that for those that don't understand, well, just to introduce us to the public, the route table, because you'll be configuring route tables a lot, associating subnets with it. So yeah, that's why I actually added this here.
Okay.
Did that make sense, or more confusion?
I mean, it does make sense, but I'm just kind of thinking about the structure of the class, and I'm thinking that we kind of the jump from where we were to where we are right now is kind of a bit of a it's a very sharp learning curve. Yes, it is. Especially for those who don't really have a solid networking background like myself. I do have some fundamental understanding of networking, but not as in depth as what we're seeing right now. But
I understand.
Obviously, I can catch up.
So
with some research here.
This is me still trying to break it down so that when we start implementing, make at least it will make more sense. I've tried taking this session without having to come up with this diagram, and trust me, everybody in that particular cohort, it took forever for them to actually understand why we just jumped into creating VPCs and subnets and then configuring route tables, adding, so again, with this, for those that probably still don't understand yet because they don't have too much knowledge about, networking, it will make more sense when we start provisioning all of these things.
Sorry, Moyo, sorry.
Yeah.
Let me come in here. I want to talk about the arrow direction from the route table going to the internet gateway. Is it going to be the other way around? Going from internet gateway down to the, because from looking at the source is from this route table, the source. The arrow is going this way, going this way, going this way, which means
I didn't get
yeah.
Does it make more sense like this?
Better, yes, better.
Yeah.
So
but also the IP addresses you have there in that routing table are kind of like they're private IP addresses.
Yeah. So I
Right.
just this is just an icon that I picked from this, so it's not actually depicting the IP addresses.
Oh, okay.
In here.
Okay. That makes sense because I was looking at it like
There's no way
to identify private IP. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's just an icon actually. Like I said, we usually don't put the route tables in the architecture because we'll be having quite a number of resources that's going to be in here. So the route table is just going to ordinarily with the knowledge of public subnet and private subnet, you automatically know for public subnet is using a public route table, and then for private subnets, if you want some form of communication over the internet, you have the NAT gateway. Yeah.
Okay. So this is basically just an infrastructure diagram with one region and multiple availability zones, 2 in this case. And then we have the public and private subnets.
Yes,
okay.
We have 2 availability zones and then 3 subnets. So I was explaining that this is a 3-tier architecture now. And 3-tier basically, what this means is you have 3 subnets in an availability zone. So this does not mean it has to be exactly like this. You can decide to have 3 public subnets or 3 private subnets. It's just the number of subnets now that you have in an availability zone that determines the tier of architecture that you have drawn up. So you can actually have more than 2 availability zones. This is just for high availability. You can have 3, 4 availability zones. That does not matter. It's just the number. So when you probably you are told to come up with maybe 2-tier or 3-tier architecture, what should come to mind is the number of availability zones that you have. The number of subnets now that you have in an availability zone. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you.
So when you create your infrastructure in a region, right? Are you the one that actually? I mean, you don't determine the number of availability zones that are available, right? You just work with what you have. Is that correct? Or maybe I don't know. I'm not asking my question the right way.
Maybe you want to rephrase it so I can understand.
Okay, so you're coming up with an architecture that with a diagram like this, right?
Yeah.
And you have provisioned your EC2 instances in a region. You don't determine the number of availability zones available to you, right?
So it's the requirement of whatever it is that you want to deploy that will determine the kind of architecture you come up with. Before, you can't provision your EC2 instance before coming up with your architectural diagram. So right now our EC2 instance will be sitting maybe, say I have an EC2. So I want to have an EC2. Let's see, let's use this. Sitting in here. Our EC2 instance can be sitting in here. I can have another one, maybe that is housing some backend API sitting in here. So we must have had this diagram before we start provision, because while you are provisioning your EC2 instance, you would have to determine which of the subnet or which of the availability zones you want to put each of the resources.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying that if one understands this and every other thing that we'll be creating, if it's your RDS you want to create now, say you want to create RDS, all of this now would be sitting inside of one of these subnets. Yeah, so and then you can have multiple AWS services. You can have 10 EC2 instances here, and have another 10 here. You can have multiple RDSs in here. I'm just putting this here now. What this availability zone, everything you do in the first availability zone, you are replicating in the second availability zone. This is just going to be for redundant and high availability.
Yeah. So I guess what I was asking initially was the number of availability zones that you have to create your EC2 instances in.
Yes.
You don't have any control over that, because like AZ's availability zones are kind of like data centers that you have in the specific region, right?
Yes.
And you don't have any control over the number. You just know how many availability zones are available to you, and you kind of like create your diagram based on the number of availability zones that you have, and you deploy your infrastructure to those
US East One, for
AZs.
US East One now, for US East One, US East One has 6 availability zones. US East One
6
up to US East One F. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So you're not compelled to use all of the 6 availability zones. So if your organization can only afford to use 2 out of those, you use only those 2, and you can decide to use US East 1F and US East 1C. You have the prerogative to actually do that. That's why it's always come up with this diagram before.
During the provisioning of the EC2 instances, I don't remember specifying AZs. Right, you only just specify the region.
You have to,
right,
in the networking part of it. So you need to explicit. So because all we've been doing thus far is we have been using the default VPC. So every region comes with a default VPC because of how fundamental it is. Because you can't create your EC2 instances, in limbo. It has to be sitting inside of, a subnet. So for every region now, AWS provides default VPC, and the VPC is there now, has, I think, public subnets for number of availability zone in that region. Yeah, so if you have 6 availability zones in a region, you have six public subnets in there. I don't think they make provision for private subnet because they know the NAT gateway is actually a very expensive resource. So depending on the region that you are provisioning your infrastructure in, you get that number of availability zone, and then if you don't choose, AWS will just put it in any, because they're all public, so just put them in any of the availability zones.
Moyo, I have a question in regards to the architectural flow of the whole infrastructure. Isn't the solution architect supposed to come up with the AZ, that's the availability zone, upon designing the infrastructure?
Yeah, so even coming up with this diagram is usually the task of the solutions architect. Like I said, as you're interfacing with product managers, with product owners, they talk about the problem they are trying to get a solution for, and then come up with this. But usually, again, like I said, I've seen technical interviews, DevOps technical interviews, they tell you to come up with in an infrastructure diagram, say for different microservices, and tell you the services that they want you to use as part of that diagram, and then tell you to also you come up with the diagram and you also implement it. Yeah, so I think DevOps actually wears multiple hats, both solutions architect, solutions cloud engineer, cloud solutions architect. So again, I'm just equipping you guys for whatever role you find yourself in, so you're able to function across any of these roles.
Thank you.
Right. For everything you drag and drop, once you click on that icon, you see that you have this, so you can use this to grow and shrink it as you want. So by the time you use this, I'm telling even me myself, you can see that I was struggling with, especially this arrowing can be very, very annoying. But with practice, you're going to get, better at it. Yeah. All right. I know Olajumoke, all of these things.
Sorry, sir. Sorry, sir.
All right. Yes.
Sorry,
Right.
I want something. When you're done with the architecture, you can convert to PDF, right?
Yes, you
Where
can.
to put it?
Actually, yes. Yes, you can. I think you can export to. Yes, you can export as all of these different
Okay.
ones. Yeah. Mm. All right. Emily, your hands are still up. All right, thank you. Bliss, are you still with us? I'll be sure that you guys are still here. So I think we have, at least with this, we can start provisioning our infrastructure now. And like I said, we can have 5 different VPCs per region. If time permits us, we would see if we can jump on VPC peering. But everything that we'll be deploying, all of the projects we'll be working on is going to be hinged on this 3-tier, infrastructure that architecture that we have. So let me take away this, so we can just have this bare bone. Don't worry. By the time you go over the videos, you would it will start making sense now. Yeah. So I think we can go ahead. Let's jump into AWS, and then we may not be able to complete the provisioning today, but we'll pick it up, tomorrow. Excuse me. So I will come to VPC. So I will be referencing this diagram, while I provision this. VPC is isolated. Again, everything you want to learn about VPC, once you type it, you can, go ahead and see all of those in there. So I have, this is your VPC. I know I have a VPC in here already. So I have a mobile VPC in here already. Can I choose another region to do this in? I'm just going to
Better. Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, each region has a default VPC. And if we open this default VPC now, or if I just come to the subnets and let me filter by the VPC. I see here that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 subnets. And these are, if you see the availability zones, they are in all of the availability zone. If I switch to, say, US East 2 now, and this would load, okay, this VPC is different now. So we only have one VPC here, and so it's only listing, we only have 3 availability zones in here, which is A, B, and C. So for each region that you move to, you would have different availability zones in there. So I'm just going to go back. So I can actually still create my VPC in here. The only time where and I can still use the same, IP range, it will not complain. It's only when I need to say I want to now pair those VPCs now. There's going to be overlapping IP addresses because they are still very isolated. It's when you need to pair them, that's when they get to see themselves. If I, okay, let's deploy it in US. It's 2. This means my diagram will probably need to change. So it's in this in US is 2. Yep, US is 2A. So it's 2B. All right, this is fine. All right, so let's come back to the dashboard. So these are all of the components. Like I said, we have quite a number of them, and depending on what you want to do. So for the VPN connection, we have the customer gateway, the I think you configure both the customer gateway, the virtual private gateway, and then you now configure the site-to-site VPN by connecting these two together. It's actually very interesting. Transit gateway also is another. So all of this, these are more advanced things. Just VPC, and then the basic ones is a lot to start with. That's for the VPCs alone. These ones that we have in here, they are a handful to learn, in the little time that we have. Talk less of now going into all of the advanced things, which again, in due time, all of this would make sense. So let's go ahead and create VPC. So we have 2 options for creating VPC, depending on what you want to do. AWS gives you like templates, which I think is very, very easy. But let's take this route first of creating our VPC. Let's learn to manually, write this, and then, by the time you understand how to structure this, and then this again gives you kind of limited, in a way, it limits what you can do. Now you can't. Okay, so you can only choose the number of ability zones. You can't select. You can either have 0 public or 2 public. Architecture now is saying we only have 1 public and 2 private, and then this does not give you that flexibility in terms of, the number of subnets that you're going to have. Yeah, so that's why if you learn how to do these things manually, if the automated option, the easy option now does not give you all that you need, you can always come back to this. So I know I named this Moban. Moban. I don't think Moban VPC. We'll be using, so this is where we put our CIDR. AWS already recommends. So when you're provisioning any infrastructure, if you need to be very observant of the options that, well, all of the pointers now that AWS provide for you, and they are so good enough to even give you this info option in here, which would basically give you brief snippet of what that configuration is. Because trust me, for every service you can have configuration that you span across pages. Yeah, so it's not everything you would need to work with. For the most part, you see that it's just maybe 1 or 2 that you need to just maybe tweak there to meet whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Yeah, so again, take note of all of these pointers in case I forget to. And it's not everything I actually have worked with. The little that I've worked with, I'll point them out, and then we can move ahead. So my CIDR is 10.0.0/16. We're not using the IP version 6, it's IP version 4 we want. Tenancy, this basically, the default tenancy is the shared tenancy, you know, they are, I think I talked about organizations that want to own a full set of servers by themselves. You can choose a dedicated tenancy, and by default, VPC is a free resource. You don't pay for having, you know, setting up your VPC. Yeah, so that is there. But if you now want to now use a dedicated tenancy, it means you will be paying for that, you know, rack of instances, servers now that you want to have provision automatically. So this is all you need to do. Your VPC name and decider is the only thing you need to add in here. That's very, very straightforward. Okay, yeah. There's an option that if you were creating with the, so let me come back to VPC now then. Quickly point this out, script VPC. If you are creating with this VPC and more, this enable DNS hostname and DNS resolution comes checked by default. But if you create manually, you don't have that. So I'm going to select my VPC. I'm going to come to actions and I'm going to edit VPC settings. And then I'm going to enable DNS hostname. It's very, very important that you put this. There are some services that if you don't have this checked, your VPC will not be able to, in a way, communicate with them, because there are some services that are not required to sit inside of the VPC, but they are, you know, kind of, I think I mentioned region, global kind of services. So for those kind of services, if you don't have DNS hostname checked, your VPC may not, because they have, after creating, they get DNS names, and that's how your VPC is able to kind of resolve the host name. So you always want to have that checked. So there's this very beautiful resource map that I find very, very interesting, especially when I'm provisioning new VPC. This would, in a way, let you see, have a pictorial, just like you have in here, but now inside of AWS. Yeah, right now, by default, you get a route table that gets created, you know, alongside just by creating your VPC. There's no subnet and there's no network connection. So I want to go ahead and create an internet gateway, because this is the default. This is the internet gateway that is created with the default. So I like to, when I'm creating new VPCs, you always want to filter by VPC so that you don't mix and match things up. Yeah, so I'm going to create an internet gateway. I'm going to call it internet gateway. Naming your resources is also something you would need to work on, because there are some, like I said, all of these things, in a way, you need to use it as part of another maybe service that you're trying to create now. And if you don't name these things properly, and then you have other, you know, of those services, you can, you know, you'd probably put the wrong egg into the wrong basket. Yeah. So we're going to create this internet gateway. And once you create the internet gateway, again, you would need, if you're working in this console, every part of this screen, you would need to take note of it. Immediately I clicked on create, I see this green option that's saying the following internet gateway was created, mobile internet gateway. You can now attach to a VPC to enable the VPC to communicate with the internet. I think you can only have one, an internet gateway attached to a VPC. You can't have multiple internet gateway or multiple VPCs connected to an internet gateway. So we only see this internet gateway in here. I'm going to click on this. Again, there are multiple, if in case this does not come up, you know, when you created yours, you can always come to your internet gateway and then click on actions and attach to VPCs, to VPC rather. then select my VPC, and that is connected. I come back to my VPC now. I'm just going to filter by this. I see here that I have my internet gateway, albeit there's still no subnets. VPC is just sitting there blank. So I'm going to come to subnets. We'll create my two public subnets now. I don't have no subnets here, so I'm going to select the right VPC, and then I call this public subnet. What did I call it in here? And I come back here, public subnet AZ1. I think I can create it without public subnet AZ1. And you can now specify which availability zone you want to put this in. This will list all the availability zones that you have in here, putting it in US East 1. My CIDR for the VPC CIDR, I can't change this. Lest I forget, your CIDR that you choose for your VPC, you can't edit it once you create that VPC. Although you can actually, if you need more, say you need more IP addresses, say you created maybe a CIDR that has very few, maybe use the /28, for your VPC, and then you need to extend that, you can create another CIDR and attach to it, but that particular one, you cannot extend that. Yeah, so our first subnet is 10.0.0.0/24, and then tag is public subnets AZ1. I can go ahead and create all of my subnets in here. So I'm going to add subnets 2. I don't need it to type. I'm just going to come and copy this. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to put this in my US East 2B. So you want to take note of exactly where the availability zone that you are putting this, depending on 10.0.1.0/24. And then I'm going to create this. Let's deal with public subnets first, and then we move to private subnets. So we have the two public subnets now, US East 1A and US East 1B, and the number of IP addresses that are available because of this CIDR now is saying there are 255. But when we drew the diagram, it said, I think I said it was 256 IP addresses that you can have. Yeah, but now it's saying 255. Is there anybody that probably has an idea why that is?
I think AWS by default uses about 5 idea, but
AWS does what?
By default, I think I've forgotten, but by default, I think they're about number of addresses that AWS reserve. Thank you, reserve. Yeah.
Yes, they have 5 IP addresses.
Yeah,
some appliances that you may want to create in those subnets. Yeah, so that's correct. Again, these are interview exam questions, so you guys want to take note of it. Next, I'm going to create a route table. Again, we have a default route table. I like to always it's a main route table. Just call it main route table so I can differentiate it. That gets created. So I'm going to create my public route table here now. Public route table. That's what I call it. Or let's just call it public route. Is fine. I'm going to put this in the right VPC. I'm going to create this route table. Lest I forget, I have this created. So for my public subnets, each of them now, because it's public, and I want by default resources that are being created in here should be assigned a public IP address automatically. So whatever it is that you can automate, in case when you are provisioning instances or whatever service now, you don't have to explicitly start setting up public IP addresses when you can actually automate all of those. So as my public subnet now has been created, I can come to options and then edit subnet settings. and there is the option to enable auto assign public IP address. So this would automatically assign public IP address, or say it will need, network interface, for this. So this is it's good to always have that set up in your public subnets. That is, I'll do the same for the second public subnet also, so that any result I create in there, I don't have to you have not changed it. Okay, this has been changed. All right, so back to our route table. Public route table is what we want to set up. Right now, the only route we have in here is locally, and this means only connection within our VPC. Everything we see, the route is saying it goes it's within the VPC, and then it's local. So I'm going to edit routes, and then I'm going to add a route. I'm going to say this is a wildcard CIDR 0.0.0/ it's saying anybody over the internet can send traffic through the internet gateway. And then internet gateway that I want to choose is, make sure is the mobile internet gateway. And I'm going to save this. And then I have to come to subnet association. Which subnets now do I want to allow to use this route table? I'm going to edit subnet association. I'm going to pick these two, and I'm going to save association. So right now, the two public subnet has been assigned to, so I have this. If I come to my resource map now, I see now that this is taking shape. By the time we add our private subnets and the rest of the network connection, all of this will come into shape. We can see how the traffic is coming. So it's saying from the internet gateway, traffic is going to these two public subnets. So we will put a pin on this today, and then we're going to continue from here tomorrow. I hope you guys have been able to learn one or two things from this. Again, this is still building on all of the things that we will be learning. If you guys can actually grasp this, trust me, every other thing that you want to learn in AWS is just going to be a walk in the park. All right, guys, thank you for your time. I know that you guys, some may still have questions. You can come to class tomorrow with your questions. I hope you would have time to go over this video so you can maybe come and bombard me with questions tomorrow. Hi, guys. Hello.
Yeah.
You guys are tired.
We need to watch this.
Okay. All right.
We are going to watch the video again. This is the longest class.
The video again.
I think this class was like 4 hours.
No, come on. I don't even think we spent 3 hours. And there's so much, compact in this. But trust me, it gets easier. And I didn't even try relating. So I think it was Pelumi that mentioned that I should try to be relating some of these things with Azure. If I start calling the Azure's implementation of this, I just didn't want to complicate things, but it would get much easier. It's like when you just start out working out, it looks like you start feeling pains at first, but by the time you get accustomed to all of these terminologies, you'd see that it's not even rocket science. How come I didn't get it at first? Yeah, so, it'll make sense. Yeah. You guys should just again try to go over the videos, and if you need to.
So sorry, in the route. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the resource map we're seeing here now, why is it that the VPC is not connected to this map side?
I think
there's no connection between this VPC and this the route map. When you click on it, you see the route showing from the subnet to the route table network.
The VPC is the root. So all of these are just, you know, still underneath it. Is this ones that actually need connection.
Okay, I see it. Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time, guys. Have a good night rest and tomorrow.